You're listening to Neurodivergent Mates. Hello and welcome to another episode of Neurodivergent Mates. I'm your host, Will Wheeler, joined with my main man, Photon John. Kev, what's going on, brother?
Minimum sleep today.
Minimal sleep.
One of my special interests is happening right now, World's Strongest Man. So I'm up late watching that because it's in
Up late.
America. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
funny.
fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm huge into Formula. Sorry, is there like a crow crowing near your joint?
And maybe
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I'll,
Well,
I'll
there
have
you
to, I'll have to
go.
monitor. I'll have to monitor the mute.
The famous crow is back to get on the podcast here, but yeah, crazy stuff. Anyway, we should get into this. We've got a really awesome guest all the way from the States, actually, to talk to us about radical. Oh shit, I didn't even pronounce it wrong. Radical authenticity with Bree Mills. So, Bree, welcome to Neurodivergent Mates. Thank you so much for joining us. What's going on?
Yeah, not much. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to meet you guys. Well, I almost said in person, but the closest thing that we can get from right now.
Well, it's so like, even though we've been using technology like this for quite a while now, right? It's still pretty cool to know that I'm talking to someone like we are in a pub or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I've got friends.
Of a time warp, like
it is. Well, that's the thing. Like, we're in the future.
Yeah,
you're in the past, technically, right?
I said something yesterday about okay, I'll talk to you in a couple of days, and it was like a different day for me, and my brain took a second to wrap around it. I was like, wait. No, I have this right. Okay.
Yeah. But you know what? As neurodivergent people ourselves, right? That can sometimes be our worst nightmare, trying to organize things, because it's like, hey, look, how about we speak at 12? And you're like, okay, 12. Yeah, okay, that sounds all right for me. And then we look at the time and it's like, holy crap, man, that's like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night or something like that. It's so hard to coordinate.
Yeah, when Bree and I were going back and forward, I was just like tearing my hair out, trying to figure out the time difference stuff.
Yeah, I mean, typically what I tell them, I'm like, half of us don't sleep anyway, so just schedule it.
Yeah, totally.
I'll probably be up anyway. It's fine.
Totally. Personally, I really get like a dopamine hit off like just social interaction. So being able to jump on something and have a chat is like whatever time. Obviously, if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, it depends what I'm up to. I could be up for that, but it's all good. But what we'll do before we get stuck into this, just for anyone who hasn't listened to the podcast before, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, and follow to all of our social media pages. We're available on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're also available on all podcasting platforms, wherever you listen to your podcasts. You ready for this?
Everywhere.
Yeah, we are everywhere, but it's not like we're dominating the airwaves or anything like that. But we're getting there. It's baby steps. You know what I mean?
No,
baby
for sure.
steps.
Yeah,
consistency.
Yeah,
it is. I tell you what, it is definitely a lot of work, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about that in a sec. But also, too, if anyone's listening and you've got some questions for ourselves or Bree today, please feel free to type it in the comment section, and we'll be more than happy to go through that. But you know what, Bree? I think especially when Photon John reached out to me and said, hey, look, we've got to get this awesome person on here. I was like, hell yeah, looking over a lot of your content on social media. And it's funny we're talking about social media there because, it looks like you're doing some pretty awesome stuff. And did I hear correctly, Photon John, you were saying that you got a post with like 1 million views today or something?
Oh.
You did 10 million, was it?
No, 10 million. Oh, geez. I'm just 10 off. Yeah, 9 off,
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Consistently, I have this thing where my brain works in memes.
Mm.
It's just how I think. So, and clearly it resonates because, you know, that's only my second highest view count. I think my top is somewhere around 15, 16 million.
Wow.
But yeah, they consistently get up there. It's always surprising because it's just like, I just make them based off of my own brain, you know, just stupid things that I'm thinking around the house. And I'm like, you really aren't alone. Like all of these silly things. We're all in this together.
Totally. And sorry, for any of our listeners who you know, may not know of so you're more just on Instagram, correct?
Primarily. I do some cross posting on Facebook, but really for me, because so my business is only like 6 months old. I went hard and I went fast. And because of that, like, I also have clients that I actually make content for as well still. And all of that is on Instagram. And so I just don't have the capacity to interact with people everywhere. It's like I get that ADHD tunnel vision. I am exploring other platforms to kind of expand to, but it'll probably be YouTube. You know, I'm not really a TikTok person. I can't get into it personally. So I'm just, you know, I'm focusing on where my strengths are. I'm also
what's best for you.
Yeah. That's also what I educate on. You know, that's my platform that I am highly focused on through my social media content strategy, education. So
that's cool. That's cool. So I just wanted to actually say the name of your so for any listeners out there, definitely check out ReadySetSquirrel. Have I pronounced that correct?
Yeah.
Being dyslexic, sometimes I stuff it up. So I apologize if I do stuff anything up. But out of curiosity, like, you know, getting 50, I often look at people who are getting views like that. What's some of the what happens when you get that? Like, I know, and I don't mean that by like, you know, you're feeling great and you're thinking, oh wow, but do you get interesting people reaching out to you, or do people run into you in the street and say, hey, you're that person?
No, not yet. I don't think I've been around long enough for for any of that. I don't. I also am very, like, contrary to what most people believe, like, I have a lot of energy. I'm a theater kid. I'm goofy, but I'm very introverted. It takes a lot of energy for me to go out and to socialize. And so it's like, I go to the grocery store, but you know, I'm not really like out and about a whole lot. So I don't experience anything like that. And just in terms of community, it's really interesting because the way that I have very intentionally kind of cultivated my community, like, yes, a lot of people will sometimes come in from those memes, but part of the way that I curate after those big boosts like that is I know what content is likely to get good exposure. I also know what's likely to shake the people who aren't my people. So after I get a big boost like that, I'll go in and post some stuff that I know that it's like, if I am not your people, you're going to figure that out real quick. And you know, then so I'll do that for a little bit, and then I will kind of tamper or just be aware of what I'm posting to just ensure that is not getting too crazy, and that I can't keep up with, actually, because it's very important to me to connect with my people as well. So it's not just a growth thing. Like, I genuinely care about the people there. Like, this community helped me to find myself after my diagnosis, and it has been huge in my healing and in my just acceptance of myself. And so I want to make sure that I am doing everything in my power to give as much of that back as I can. And if I were just always focused on, you know, more, that wouldn't be feasible and it wouldn't be genuine. So
you're not really following the data so much as following the connection and the feeling and what works there, rather than just chasing numbers.
Yeah, and it took me a while to figure out what I was going to do. And, and that's kind of why I do what I do now. It was like I needed to figure out a way to make money. But I also didn't really feel great about trying to do that in a way that wasn't also helping people to make that money themselves. So like just helping them to understand like, okay, this is what I did, and I did it by being myself. And like, if you're in this place and you have skills that you can offer the world, like, here's how you do that. Here's how you just get yourself out there and you combine who you are with a little bit of content strategy, with understanding the platform that you're on and how to like just be genuine, but also still like you're playing the social media game. We have an algorithm that determines a lot of what happens with our content, and we have different things that get prioritized within what you're posting. And so just optimizing all of that, like if I need to make my reel 7 seconds instead of 10 seconds because I have an ADHD audience and I know how to look at my insights and see when they're dropping off to make sure that I get out to more people, like that's what I'm going to do. So it's just a little bit of a mix and match and understanding, and then just showing people how to build their own thing from the ground up.
That's actually really cool. That's really cool because it is difficult. Like I know we're across a lot of platforms there, but like and it would be good just to focus on one, but I don't know. It just works for us because and you know what, with a podcast, for example, I just find like I actually do get people coming up to me when I'm out. Cool. Yeah. And I wouldn't say like we're huge or anything like that, but it is sort of a cool feeling because you don't know who's looking at your content or you don't know who's listening. And it's not like, Kev's in a band and, at least with a band, you could be playing and see your audience. When you're like social media, you don't see it.
And it has been strange having that I've had people come up to me before and go, "Oh, I really like your music," but this has been like, young dudes coming up to me at the pub being like, "Hey, you've really helped me," and it's like, wow, that's so much more. And not you can get that connection through music, but it's just a whole different beast. I was going to say, well, I don't know that we would necessarily be as spread across many platforms if we weren't doing a podcast. If we were just content creators, I reckon we would be more specific. But
yeah,
I think.
But but you know what we did realize? We're like, well, we've got this podcast. We'll never really, I suppose, marketing it that well. And like we're like, man, we could be pulling heaps of content out of this episode itself. You know what I mean? So we're really starting to look at that, and that's where, well, I know it's taken me a while to get into it, but I actually have been getting on TikTok lately, and it's sort of like there's different audiences on different platforms, if that makes sense. It's weird. Like Facebook, for example, is that it feels like an older demographic, but the younger ones are definitely Instagram and YouTube as well, and TikTok. So that's an interesting thing as well.
3 ages, right? Well, and that's kind of, I think, why Instagram is kind of my home base now too. It's like, you're right. I feel like Facebook is a little bit like maybe a generation ahead, or like older millennials. I am an older millennial, but I am a millennial, and I feel like that's kind of the base on Instagram, or at least in my experience. And TikTok feels like the generation under. I'm just like, I'm not cool enough for TikTok.
Yeah,
it sort of does feel like that. It's sort of because, and also too, you're seeing so many young people on there and all that, and it's like, oh man,
contrary to popular belief, Gen Z still does know how to look up to their elders. Sometimes, I spoke on a panel at the University of Queensland the other day. And I was like, oh man, I'm the old man on this panel, because it was all students, and I had that moment where I'm like, I don't understand the words that they're saying, they're using slang, but we had a really, really good in-depth conversation, and they had lots of questions, and and they really appreciated that I've lived with autism and ADHD a lot longer. Was diagnosed very late. So we've got things to contribute to the younger community, I think. And they are interested.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I say something?
Yeah.
Here's the first example of a bunch of ADHDers going off on a tangent or something, because we've got a podcast. Yeah, totally. The funniest thing is this always happens, but I tell you what, that's where some of the best information comes from. So cool stuff. But we should really get stuck into this. So, when Photon John reached out to you, we asked, hey, what do you want to talk about? And you said, let's talk about radical authenticity. So, for a lot of our audience, they probably have no idea what that might be. So what is it?
Yeah, well, and I'm sure it's not like a unique term to me, but I don't really hear it. Like, you hear about radical love, and, I just started using that term, and then somebody started asked me one day, what does that mean? And I really had to sit with it, because in my head I knew what it meant. I was like, I know that it just means being authentic. But then when I started building my curriculum and building that into kind of the foundation of what I teach, I really kind of dug in. And so the definition of authenticity is more or less just being exactly what you claim to be, being exactly what you say you are. And what I feel like radical authenticity is being exactly what you say you are, but also just exactly who you are. Deep down in your soul, your passions, your interests, not just conveying okay, this is what I say I am, so I'm going to it's really digging deep down within yourself and saying what matters to me? What is important to me? What do I love? What do I, feel like is the most authentic version of myself? And I feel like that's so important for neurodivergent people, especially as you kind of have to go through the unmasking process after diagnosis. If you're late diagnosed, which I was diagnosed just almost exactly a year ago now, at 37, after battling anxiety, depression. I was an alcoholic for about a decade, and really just going through it, and then hitting rock bottom after I was laid off of my job last year, and realizing I can't keep going on like this. And then I finally got the help that I needed, and then was diagnosed and started my Instagram page about 11 months ago, and really didn't expect anything from it. Didn't really know what I was doing with it. I was just I'm just going to start documenting this journey, because once I understood what was going on, it all started clicking into place. It's all of these puzzle pieces of why am I this way? Why am I that way? Why can't I just do the thing? It all started coming into focus. And so I just started getting really intentional about I was like, I'm just going to be who I am. I had just moved. And I was like, I'm just going to start practicing this, just putting myself out there and just talking to people. And maybe nobody's ever going to see it. Maybe nobody's ever going to care. But people started showing up. And
totally. Sorry to sort of butt in there, but I can relate to that on so many levels. And I think for a long time, and probably a big reason, maybe, I had a big drug and alcohol problem for a very long time. And, that was because I was going into certain situations where I couldn't be myself. So I had to use this thing to cover up. But, the thing is, once I started going, and look, I had to get rid of a lot of friends because I felt like I was only hanging out with people and trying to be someone I wasn't, to help with that, I suppose, loneliness or boredom or whatever that was. But I think once you start to be yourself, you actually start to attract the right people for you as well. And it's
Absolutely.
It feels so much better type of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Exactly.
With myself, it was when I was sort of at peak alcoholism in my 20s. It was dulling down the senses so that I could enter that environment and not, just have the sensory issues. Because I've got the double whammy, unfortunately, with the autism as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of sensory issues, but it was that too. I just couldn't cope with the environment on a sensory level.
Yeah, and I'm experiencing a similar thing now, that where my ADHD is treated. It's kind of coming up where, I'm fairly certain that there's something else going on. That it's always so hard with the plot, because you want to be authentic, and I don't try to hide anything, but I also don't want to take away from anybody else's experience with something. If I'm like, oh yeah, me too, or whatever. But I definitely resonate with a lot of that, and it's kind of a journey that I'm on myself, kind of trying to figure out what else is going on, because there's a lot more sensory stuff with me than is typical for ADHD only. So.
And it's definitely a journey. Like, I don't know, when I got diagnosed, I think for me, I started to realize why I felt certain things in certain situations. Like, and I say this a lot on the show, like going to the shops. I used to think, why do I get so angry while I'm in the shops? Or why do I feel like if I'm going out, I need to have so many drinks to ride myself off so I can cope with the pain or whatever like that, and you start to go, now I get why I'm like that.
Yeah.
Let's put processes into place so I don't need to be like that.
Or at least just being aware of it, because I feel like when you don't know why you're acting a certain way, or why something is affecting you a certain way, like, it causes so many issues, because you don't understand it. So obviously you can't communicate it to other people. And there's been so many times in my life where, I've lost friendships because there would be situations where I'd have a really extroverted friend. I'm always that one that gets kind of adopted by the extroverts. And then, you make plans with this person, and then they pull in a whole horde of other people into the plans. And now I'm having a panic attack because, and I don't know why, because I'm like, why can't I just be around that many people? It's like, because I'm overstimulated and I'm uncomfortable and I'm socially awkward, and, I've got all of these, things. And then, so I'm drinking myself into a stupor just to get through the thing, because that's the only time when I feel like I can, dull all of the other sensory stuff enough to, like, get through the
and come up to the level of the extroverted people in the crowd, and then they start to think you're extroverted and expect that from you, and then you're in this whole cycle,
totally.
Because otherwise you feel guilty, because you're the one sitting in the corner just like watching everybody else, and then it's just what's wrong? Why aren't you enjoying yourself? Why aren't you like, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Embarrassing.
I'm just taking things in, and I just process.
But do you know what as well, right? Like, the thing I used to struggle with was, I think even now I'm very selective with who I like to hang about, if that makes sense. And when you're around your normal friends and all that, then other people invited into the situation. This is a new person, and it's like, does this person fit in with who I am or what I need, type of thing? So that whole socializing thing. And look, don't get me wrong, I'm a social butterfly and I love it, but I sometimes I meet some people and I think, you're not my people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's like, you can sit and socialize with them, but like, just like, this isn't going to go anywhere, probably.
It's like,
that's fine too. I mean, at least being aware of that is so helpful, because, you can at least have some semblance of control. And it's like, I'm actually like great and personable in like small groups or one-on-one. I will sit and talk to somebody for hours, but you stick me in a group and it's like, I have no concept of like, when am I supposed to talk? When am I not supposed to talk? you know, and I'm always that one that like people start talking over and then you start like sinking in on yourself and you're like, oh God, you know, like,
yeah, totally.
And nobody heard me and now I feel stupid and I don't like, it's just.
Well, do you know what, right? Like I was only saying this to a friend of mine the other day when I speak at a lot of conferences on neurodiversity, especially in education and all that type of stuff. Now, for me, conferences are daunting because there's so many people. It's a long day. All of that. Now, I said to my friend, I said, I only will go to a conference now if I'm speaking at it. Reason being, I know I'll speak, people will see me, and then the people who want to talk to me will come up and speak to me afterwards type of thing. It's not me having to try and go out and make these conversations and feel rejected when someone doesn't give me the attention that I need type of thing. It's just weird, but that's how it works for me.
You know, and I feel like that's how I feel on social media. And I think that there's a difference in like, for me, my page feels like my house in a sense.
Well, it's your comfort zone, right?
And I'm like, if you're here and you're reaching out to me, or I'm even reaching out to you, like you have chosen to be here. And I don't ever like, you know, it's even part of kind of what I teach. Like I never cold DM to sell people stuff, but I try really hard to message people proactively just to connect, just to say hi, just to make sure they don't need anything. Because I'm like, you know, I've been in places where sometimes you just need somebody to listen to you. And sometimes you just need somebody who makes you feel like you're not an alien, for lack of a better term. And that happens so frequently. And it like, that's why I do what I do the way that I do it. That's why I have so many different things, or, you know, balls in the air that I'm juggling when I could just focus on business, but it is my passion to connect with people and to help them feel less alone and in their experience with life. And there's so many people that I reach who either are self-diagnosed like very early on and just like really don't even know a whole lot of other neurodivergent people. And they'll say to me like, thank you so much for connecting with me. This makes so much difference. Like, you know, because sometimes you can see too people like binging and like liking a whole lot of your stuff in a row. And it kind of triggers that like, oh, I should go and say hi to this person. And they're like, I'm sitting here listening or watching all your content and sobbing my eyes out. And I'm like, number one, I'm sorry. But number two, like, can I give you a virtual hug? Like, I know it's hard.
And thank you for connecting with us too, because you know, we've been speaking lately thinking, you know, we haven't really spoken to any influencers in our space before, and we need to reach out to some, and we just weren't sure whether everyone was going to be too cool or too famous or, you know, whatever. And I get that all the time too. I'm
like, dude, I am a 37-year-old mom in my basement, like acting a fool on Instagram. Like, I am not too cool for anybody. And, you know, just, I don't know. It's one of those things where some people, you know, some people are like that. If you let yourself have that mentality, but that is never why I got into this.
But do you know what the coolest thing about it is? So, like, you know, I've you know been working in the neurodiversity space for like 10 years or something now, right? And the amount of connections I've got across the world, and it's funny how we were talking about before, how it's like, man, we're like on the other side of the world and we're talking and all that. Man, I've had people come to Australia, or I've gone overseas or whatever, and met up with them. And it's like, we're like, just, it's not like we've just met. It's like we've known each other for ages. And that's the cool part about it as well. Like I could be like, hey, let's, sorry, what part of the States are you in?
Yeah. Oh, I'm in Virginia.
Oh, Virginia. I could be like, hey, look, I'm going to be near Virginia soon. We might catch up, or let's do whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like, hell yeah, man, let's catch up. You know, it's the best feeling ever.
It really is. It really is. And it's so special just how much people in this space embrace each other. Like I have a small group of women who like all of us kind of started building our pages around the same time. Like we all connected when we were like little bitty, couple hundred, like woohoo, we just hit 150 followers, like hooray. And and here we all are later, like still every single day in group chat cheering each other on, and hey, tweet this next time, or here, do this. And like just that kind of support from other people who you never have to like give a disclaimer for yourself about. It's like you could be unhinged and like no, like they just know. You're like, oh, you're having one of those days, okay? Or like, guys, I'm really feeling like the imposter syndrome is coming in hot today, or this troll said this thing on my content and it's making me feel really like my RSD is flaring up really bad. And it's like, you just got to give each other the pep talk and be like, we're in this for something bigger than this little troll on Instagram. Like,
totally.
Move on and connect with the people who you are impacting.
Sorry, can I say something about trolls? And I know we're sort of going off topic here, right?
Oh no,
please. Well, the thing is, right? What people forget is that what I've found in the past is because probably the platform for where I've sort of made a lot of connections and grown and developed a lot has been LinkedIn, right? Yeah. And sometimes you will post something up, and I don't know if you get the same thing, right? You post something up, let's say about, I don't know, let's just pick something about, I don't know, something neurodiversity in the workplace or something. But then a troll will sometimes get up and pick a fight about something that's not even related to what the post is about. Yeah. And it's like, what the hell? And you get them frustrated. That's why I'm just like, now, if I have that crap happen, I just delete it. I only keep like the good messages. And I think, and people are like, oh man, you shouldn't do it. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
You know what? I don't actually, like, most of them, unless they're really offensive to the point where I feel like they could hurt somebody else. It's funny because after a bit, and like I've posted a reel almost every single day since I started Instagram almost a year ago. Like I am a content producing machine. And after what you become, like, it doesn't mean anything. And honestly, I kind of enjoy it now because it gives my inner troll an opportunity to come out and play. It's like, I'm never mean to anybody, but I will be sarcastic. Oh, please tell me more.
I've taken to, if someone posts something negative or whatever, like I was posting about something I'd like to do with the X-Men online, and someone was like, that's crap. And I just responded with, do you, like to ruin people's joy for a living, or is it just for fun?
Yeah.
And then I can see all the notifications dinging off and they're losing their minds, and I'm not even looking anymore. I just leave it. Like I make my point and I move on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny because oftentimes it's like the community takes care of it for you, or it just creates more engagement. And like, I'll just straight up tell, like, somebody the other day said something like, oh God, I can have ADHD and, not broadcast it to the world and make it my entire identity. And I just gave him a little trophy emoji and I said, here's your award, you must be better than the rest of us. And holy moly, if that comment didn't get hundreds of likes, it's like, you just play I'll play the game.
Well, and the trolls don't realize
me, that's fine.
Yeah, and the trolls don't realize they're actually helping you. Because you're getting engagement.
I'll keep going. And
the algorithm loves a troll.
Engagement. Like, do you realize that I'm gonna, like, I'll see you next time in your feed because you just interacted with my content, so you're gonna see me again. Like,
that is so true. That is so true. Funny thing, we're going back off topic, but they're really good conversation. Do you know what I mean? It's really cool. Now, I sort of did skip one because we sort of spoke, and the next question was actually how can people practice radical authenticity? But we sort of covered that, I felt, with everything we're talking about. But is there any counterproductive or negative that you need to be careful not to make? Not to mistake for authenticity.
Yeah, I really think that there's a few things that some people try to wield a little bit as, well, that's just how I am, right?
Yeah.
A few of the ways I know that we kind of try to excuse that. And I am the info dumping queen. I am an oversharer to the max. But sometimes there is a line, I feel like, between being conscious of not oversharing in a way that's going to cross other people's boundaries or make them uncomfortable, in a sense that it's like, okay, once we're close enough, there's some things that I can let you in on, but just using your platform as a place to trauma dump, I think, there's a difference between trauma dumping on people who don't know you yet and who you haven't built a relationship with yet.
Sorry, can you explain what
about like your experiences?
What does trompadump mean?
Trauma.
Okay, trauma. I'm sorry, it sounded because of your accent, it just sounded different to me.
Yeah. It's so funny because I don't feel like I have an accent, but I have a San Diego accent.
Yeah, and it sort of feels like that for us, but from what I've been told, we have a incredibly strong Australian accent.
Yeah.
But it just feels normal to us as well. But sorry, you were saying.
Or justifying poor behavior. Like if you're just being a jerk and saying that's just how I am.
That's a good point.
How to be authentic.
To just butt in for 2 seconds on that.
Yeah.
People hate admitting that. And I think it's something that if we're going to be honest and authentic, we need to admit that occasionally neurodivergence can result in straight up poor behavior. Yeah. And you need to be self-aware about that and monitor that. And
exactly. Or on the other, just take responsibility. Because I feel like that is part of being just, self-aware, and part of being authentic is just to accept when you're wrong, take responsibility when you're wrong. Like that is something I talk about a lot too. It's like nobody in this world is perfect. I'm going to screw up. I'm going to do something at some point that is going to upset somebody in a way that I did not ever intend. And it's okay for that not to be inherently wrong, but to still say, I'm sorry that impacted you in that way. And just take ownership of that, because you don't have to feel like, hey, this was, an inherently evil thing that I did or whatever. But I think that there's always just a place for kindness and just helping to bridge that gap with somebody if you've made an impact on them in a way that, harmed somebody in some way. It's almost impossible not to do in some regard, but you can try your hardest and you can just be kind when it happens.
It's almost like an educational piece, right? So a lot of the time we may be dealing with people who don't know anything about neurodiversity, if that makes sense. So, sometimes if we do make a mistake or whatever that looks like, explaining why, but not using it as an excuse. Like, I did that because I'm this. So, you can't get upset at me, but, maybe helping people understand. But also too, once we're helping people to better understand, maybe people, and when I say people, I mean like neurotypical type of people, can have a better understanding of maybe how to say, hey, look, that's not right, or not lose their shit at us, but go, look, man, I think you approached that the wrong way there,
Yeah, exactly. Like my audience is primarily, neurodivergence, but there are people who start conversations or get salty on your because, they get upset that like you don't have ADHD or like whatever, and they'll throw something out or ask a question sarcastically, and I'll counter and I'll be like, listen, if you're genuinely interested in knowing, like, I will talk to you about this. Like, I will absolutely meet you where you're at, and I will walk you through this in the kindest way that I possibly can, and to help you kind of, understand where I'm coming from, because that's where we learn and we meet each other. Like nobody ever learned anything or changed their opinion by being jerks to each other. Like that just creates more separation and more distrust. But once you build that foundation of like, okay, you're somebody that I can trust and somebody who cares about this, like now we can meet on the same platform, and now we can talk as equals and say, this is where I'm coming from. Please explain your opinion. And now we can find somewhere to meet in the middle.
Nobody ever learned anything from being jerks to each other. Can we soundbite that and megaphone it out to the world right now, please?
It's like, but do you know what I often see within the neurodiversity community is that, you know, sometimes, and it's funny how you were talking about someone saying, oh, you were saying something about ADHD and, you know, I don't know if they didn't believe you or something there before, but, you know, I've had people come to me with a lot of the stuff that I've been doing on the outside, saying, oh, you know, you wouldn't know what it's like to struggle. You're not as neurodivergent as I am. Do you know what I mean? And that really hurts because it's like, well, you know what, you know, maybe I'm not you. I have struggled, you know, like you haven't, you're only seeing, it's like the iceberg picture, principle. You know, you see all the good stuff on the top, but you don't see the hard work and the pain and all the stress I've gone to get to that level. It's been bloody hard. And when you hear that, it's almost like it's like a kick in the guts, if that makes sense.
One thing that I always try to keep in mind when those situations occur is like, I feel like none of those comments are ever about you. They're never about you. Whenever somebody comes at you who doesn't even really know you and doesn't and they want to attack you or throw around assumptions, like that's coming from such a place of deep hurt within themselves or inadequacy or feeling inadequate. Like, you know, even though you're not, like, you're struggling with these things too, but it's like, you know, that voice inside your head that's like, well, they don't have it as bad as I do. Like, you know, some people get mad at me about trying to talk about it through a positive lens. And I'm like, well, you know, I talk about the bad things too, but I don't want to be that person who just casts a glum light. Like, I can't change who I am. And I can choose to take it and use it to be the best person that I can be and to connect with people and to make a difference. Or I can sit over in the corner and be angry at everybody else. About
and get on your laptop and tell the world that, you know, and you know,
be that.
Like, I've actually disconnected with people, and I don't know if you've heard the term like keyboard warriors.
Oh yeah,
like people who
that's
get
a very
on there.
neurodivergent thing.
Yeah. That in person, in person they will be, and it's like masking almost. But behind, once they get behind the keyboard and no one's there, they will unleash, and it's like, oh my god, I cannot deal with this person.
Yeah, that's bother me a lot more, but
that was the
whatever.
That's what built my notification anxiety.
Yeah,
because in the early days of social media, because in a normal conversation, people don't talk to each other like that. And so I would get locked into these conversations going, why are you talking to me like this? And I would be there for hours, you know.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time. I'm talking, you know, back, you know, when Facebook.
But you're trying to prove that what you're sharing is correct, and then other people are disagreeing. And I'm like, I got to a point where I was like, why am I even bothering with this?
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting frustrated. I'm depressed. I'm all that. I'm like, I posted, and it could have been a positive post, but someone's turned it into a negative for me. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, well, piss off. You know,
so, I had an issue with a friend the other night. We were talking online, and he just really wanted to go down this political conversation path. And I know that I disagree with him on quite a lot of stuff, you know. But I try to maintain friendships with people who I disagree with. You know, I think that's important. And I said, you know, I warned him a few times. I'm like, look, I'm just not interested in having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't stop. He just really wanted to talk about it. I'm like, mate, and then so I slightly engaged just enough to thinking, okay, well, now I've engaged with him. Yeah. And then he just goes, you know, it just explodes more. And then I'm just like, look, okay, I'm out, man. I'm not having this conversation. I've told you a bunch of times now, I'm not interested in this. And I do that in a conversation, mid-conversation with people that I know and love, because I'm just like, no, I'm dipping out at this point. Because I've learned, you know, that's not a conversation.
Let's agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But no, it is. It's in the neurodivergent community. You often come across that regularly. Like some people will just, like I think a big thing I see as well is that even like the terms people use. People, if someone doesn't use the correct term or something like that, they will lose their shit over it. And it's like, dude, it's about the point we're trying to get across. Let's not and I can tell you right now, since I've been in like the neurodiversity community, all that type of stuff, right, for years now, and people are still having arguments over shit we're having arguments about all the way back then. It's like, man, I got more important shit to worry about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, holy shit, man. That's where you have to just walk away from it and just like move forward.
I just ignore it. Like, but yeah, I mean, especially on viral posts and stuff, you always get those. But I leave them now because the community takes care of them. It's hilarious. So I'll just like watch it. And, like somebody makes some sort of comment and they've just got the horde jumping on them, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not even going to look at, like, you guys take care of it. I don't care. Whatever. They were mad at me earlier for, what did they were mad about me using the term ADHDer.
Okay.
And I've never heard that one before because, it's just like ADHD is doing whatever. It's just kind of.
I use that term as well. It's just an easier way of saying it.
Well, it sounds gross. Like it's something that we're choosing. And I'm like, what? Like, I mean, I guess if you want to assign that meaning to it, that's your right. But,
and do you know what?
Like left field. I was like, huh?
Yeah. Do you know what, right? It's funny you say that because there's so many things that say, like when people use the term like I have a superpower, stuff like that, right? Now, personally for myself, I don't like that term, but I don't care if other people use that. If people feel comfortable in using that, go for it. That's cool. I used to be really worried about that, but then I'm like, look, man, it's got nothing to do with me.
It's semantics too. It's like it's literally it's strengths and weaknesses, right? You're just labeling it superpowers. It's just a term. It's like anybody could use. Every single person on this planet has strengths and weaknesses.
Totally.
And so you want to play the semantics game, that's fine. Like I don't typically use that word either. I say strengths because
same.
That's just like we do have strengths and
totally.
And because I'm sensitive to the fact, just like with any community, it's like I know that that's a polarizing topic that I don't need to take a stand on because I don't have a strong opinion about it. So I'm just like, why would I create controversy when there isn't none? And I think that's a little bit of a different mindset that I have about like, just the social media thing. It's like because controversy in general does create engagement. Like you can say something like that and I would probably get a lot of views on it. But
true.
I don't feel the need to throw something out there to create fights within a community that I love. Why would I do that? So, so I just don't use it. I just say strengths.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
We're getting a little late in the piece, and I did just kind of want to pull us back to the core here, because there's a couple of things I really wanted to ask you. Sort of get from the questions, but going back to the radical authenticity side of things, could you just give us a little breakdown of how that's benefited you and like why it's important?
I think that it has helped in a lot of ways, just understanding what my values are, what my passions are, being able to embrace those things about myself that I never quite understood before, or I never allowed myself to understand. It was like, oh, this is weird about me, or, this is whatever. And it just kind of became a point through like a lot of introspection and a lot of just kind of breaking down my history of realizing like, okay, all of these side symptoms, all of this anxiety, all of this depression, all of, these these vices and these struggles were kind of born from this feeling like I had to hide who I was, that I had to pretend to be somebody that I wasn't, because I was, told from the time that I was young that this and this and this and this and this is not okay. All of these things about you are not okay. And so just saying, like, listen, I'm giving a middle finger to all of that. I'm going to live my life and I'm going to run my business in a way that I want to. Like, yeah, the way that I run business leaves money on the table. It absolutely does, because I'm not going to cold DM people and try to get into their wallets the first time that I meet them. Like, I am more concerned about people as people than I am about, signing you up for my program or whatever. It's like, I take an approach of like, when you need me, you know that I'm here. And that's how I operate my business. And so, will I ever be a 7-figure entrepreneur? I don't know. Hopefully, but maybe not.
Totally.
But I would rather be true to me and treat people the right way and be, stand by my values than I would anything else. And I mean, I walked away from a brand deal just this week, like, a high dollar brand deal, because it didn't align with my values, and I didn't feel like it would be a good fit for my community. And like, my brand promise since day one has been like, I will put you guys above money every single time. And, so it's just being consistent in that, and allowing myself through being authentic to just say, listen, this is how I do business. And if you want to work with me, you're going to do things my way, And, it's not like I'm trying to throw around weight or anything like that. I'm just like, you're going to do it the right way. We're not going to play these mind games with people.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. Because I often speak about this with my business partner a lot of the time as well. And, when you're wanting to do business, like the way I look at it, it's not, you don't want to like be doing business with someone that, there's no fit there, or it's just for the money. A lot of the time I'm looking at what's the relationship going to be like? Am I going to feel like I can't come to this person when we can do something together, or whatever like that is, because it's just going to fail if you don't have that. Like you said, if those values don't line, you're going to have very big problems down the track.
Exactly. And not only like, is it just better for you, like to be able to just accept who you are, but also like, it's actually really good for business too, because it develops trust naturally. Like, just being real with people, they can trust you, like it's, that's a really big deal in a world where you don't always know what you're going to get. It's like, I'm not going to try to throw somebody at the finish line and, jump to a decision, in hiring me before they're ready. Like, I'm going to do what I need to do to build that trust with you, because that's the respect that I would want as a person as well. And so, it's like, yeah, it might take a little bit longer, but I know that I'm uncomfortable when I'm put in that position. And like, I would so much rather somebody come and be comfortable and be confident and be ready to be in that place than to have to push somebody into that space.
You'll have them. Oh, sorry, you go, Kev.
I was going to say, it's nice to realize I've been practicing radical authenticity without realizing. So I used to work for like a lot of the big marketing agencies around town, and I'm very, very good at what I do. I don't mind saying that, but I couldn't align with them culturally, and it was all about money. And I saw my job as I'm helping business, especially like new business owners and stuff, succeed. And I got really invested emotionally with them in making that happen. But you couldn't do that in a corporate environment because it was a corporate environment.
Exactly.
And you had to make money. And I was like, well, we need to spend a bit of extra money here to do that. And they'd be like, no, that's not
that way.
I'd be like, And so now I've got all my own direct clients. So they all, I work totally for myself, and I do everything the way that I know that it needs to be done. They all be done.
Yeah.
They're all kicking ass. They're all really happy, and I have really good, genuine relationships with them. So,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that's the whole point of like it's like so many people get to that place, like once they're diagnosed, they realize, all of this stuff. And it's like, we're generally pretty justice sensitive people in, you know, as a general rule, you know, obviously everybody's
Justice
a little bit
sensitive
different.
people. I love that.
I mean, high justice sensitivity. You know, we get real hyped up about people doing the wrong thing, and it's like, what better position to be in? You know, and so many of us end up leaving corporate culture because of that. And you know, for me, I chose not to go back because I was like, oh, well, this isn't ever going to get any better. You know, this is just who I am. And so what better way to be in control of that than to just say, listen, I'm going to build my thing and I'm going to do it my way. And I'm going to do the right thing. And I'm going to be unapologetic about that. And, you know, screw everything.
Well, I think it builds for a more probably reputable company in that way as well. You're saying what you believe in. It does take longer, but you'll have and you'll probably find, it'll take longer, but you probably will make more money because sometimes you lose money when you're dealing with dickheads.
Because you're doing the footwork to build the trust and to build the foundation instead of building it on, you know, what is that old?
Yeah, totally.
Building it on the sand. It's like, when you try to speed towards the finish line in that way, you don't have a foundation to build upon. You'll make money, but won't get
totally. But we are getting close to the end here. So do you have any last tips for people wanting to be their more authentic self?
Yeah, I think that really one of the biggest things for me was finding people who accept you for exactly who you are. Surrounding yourself with people who say, you don't have to justify yourself to me. You don't have to give me, you know, disclaimers after everything that you say. You know, once you kind of get comfortable with just communicating with somebody without constantly feeling like you have to apologize for yourself, it helps you identify so much more about who you are. It's like little by little, you just become more comfortable with like the stuff that's coming out of you. And you're just like, oh, okay, there you are, you know, that's who you are. And just kind of thinking about your past and journaling and mindfulness is absolutely very helpful. Also, being realistic about not having all of the answers immediately, not having it be an overnight process. Like, it's an ongoing, I feel like, lifelong process.
We're always learning, right?
Untangling and just kind of figuring out. And it's like, you don't all of a sudden one day unmask and that's just who you are forever. Like, we're still constantly evolving, growing humans. And I feel like learning about neurodiversity was really big for me too. Just getting deep into understanding exactly how everything works and exactly how, like, what makes it different and how your brain is wired. And so just having actual scientific research of like, okay, this is what's going on. And it kind of helps me to look at it more pragmatically.
The data does help.
Emotionally. So I think there needs to be a healthy mix of both, and to just understand that, you know, it's just, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you per se. It's just, we are wired differently in a space that, or in a world that's not really set up for the way that we process and the way that we function. When I'm set up properly with the way that, like, I excel, I'm a beast. You know, I will crank through, and I, you know, I can be extremely productive and extremely focused and extremely, you know, powerful when I am in my strength area. But you try to stick me somewhere else, like, I will completely flounder. And I was like that in college. I dropped out of college 2 years in. I thought I was stupid. I thought that I would never be able to amount to anything, because it turns out, like, I just couldn't freaking focus or study because
the college system isn't set up,
and I was unmedicated, you know.
And also too, the higher education part of that as well isn't equipped for people like ourselves.
Yeah, not at all.
You know,
Yeah, they'd be
doesn't
like,
matter
why am I
where
so
you
good at this, but I'm really bad at this? Like, no,
Totally.
looking back, it's interest-based. You know, we have
Totally.
interest-based nervous systems. And
Totally.
To just answer this comment here from KJ, I think it was being a jerk. No one ever learned anything from being a jerk to each other, from being jerks to each other.
Yeah. I thought I'd post that up because she's been posting a lot, and I thought, man, I got to do a shout out. So, KJ, thank you so much for all your comments today. But also, too, Bree, thank you so much for coming on as well.
Thanks for having me.
You know, if people want to connect with you and find out a bit more about your work, where's the best place to go?
Really, my Instagram is where I live and breathe, and that's where all the fun stuff happens. So,
so
ReadySetSquirrel.
Yeah, cool.
That is my Instagram handle. I do have a website as well, same name, but Instagram, you can always get me. And I always tell people, some people are weird about DMing. Like, I promise you, I am 10 times more awkward than you are. Like, it will never put me off. I will always respond. You know, I'm not too cool for anybody. I'm the opposite of that. So yeah, reach out, connect, and come have a party with us. That's what we do all day, every day.
Nice. Well, no, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We really appreciate your time. It's been and this is the thing, like we just don't get to speak to our American friends that often. Like, we're always, so being able to connect with people from overseas means a lot to us. And I know it's probably a little bit late over that side of the world, but yeah, well, no. Well, we're getting older. You know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, true. But no, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great, and so cool to see how amazing your Instagram page has skyrocketed within such a short amount of time. We could probably learn a little bit from you. So thank you so much for your time.
Anytime.
Yeah, and if we're over in sorry, where are you again? Virginia, we'll knock on the door and catch up. Yeah.
There you go. I've got a guest room in a whole podcast studio. So
yeah, cool. Just do a live podcast.
Just get a random knock on the door and it's me and Will. Hey, mate.
I just be like, hey, what's up? Downstairs.
Well, first of all, you're probably going to be like, how the hell did you get my address?
No, nothing surprises me. I gave away my entry Google Drive last night, so
true.
Probably got it from there.
From your Google Drive.
From my Stan store.
Yeah, true.
Oh
true.
My God.
Photon John, did you have anything else you wanted to say before I close everything off?
No, just thank you, Bree. Although I'm having a moment of appreciation. You know, Will and I have been plugging away at this for a couple of years now, and like, you know, you got to push through even when no one's listening, and it's been a hard slog. But I think, you know, if you went back and told us in the beginning that we'd be speaking to influencers and stuff, we'd be pretty happy. So I'm having a moment of appreciation for where we're at.
Myself that, but I'm
well, you know, 10 million viewers would disagree.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do with myself with 10 million views on a post. I'd be beside myself.
The first time it happened, I almost vomited everywhere. Like, I had so much anxiety about it, and now it's just like, all right, you know.
Did you have your notifications on?
No, I don't leave my notifications.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say it would have just been going ding, 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 ding,
well,
ding,
yeah,
ding.
and I don't leave those ones on. No, but like, it is pretty wild because when they do start popping off, like, your feed becomes something entirely different. You know, it's just like, I could scroll for days and it's just notification. It all kind of blends together, and I try to like look for the comments and stuff, but it is always so cool to like go to bed and wake up in the morning and all of your notifications have maxed out, and it's like, ooh, it's like opening a little surprise. Like, who do I get to hang out with today?
Wow.
I'm having dopamine for breakfast.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No, it is cool when you do. And I the thing I like about especially social media is just the people, like, don't get me wrong, there are some dickheads out there, but the cool people you meet as well.
Yeah.
You know what I
have
mean?
such a great community. Like, I have very little for an audience my size, like very, very little drama. Everybody is so good to each other. And I think that people just know when they come in, it's like, that's not going to hang. Like, I will block your butt so fast.
Yeah.
You start anything here, like, you're gone. I don't have anything to prove to any. You're in my house.
Yeah. You'd definitely be a cool person to hang out with, I think. But thank you so much for everything. It's been a pleasure. So for all of our listeners, if you haven't already done so, please connect with Bree at ReadySetSquirrel on Instagram. My name's Will Wheeler with my co-host, Photon John, and this is Neurodivergent Mates. Till next time.